I sent out a tweet earlier today. I said, imagine if Africa didn't have to deal with imperialism, or
Mm-hmm.
all of the Americas didn't have to deal with imperialism. Like, what type of
Mm.
continents would they be? Like,
It wouldn't be called anything but Africa, first of all. Remember, it got the breaking, I guess you call it balkanization once again, and these false borders. That was created by Westerners. That wasn't Africa was Africa. That's why for so long people were confused. They're like, hold up, I thought Africa. We always say Africa is a continent, not a country. It was a continent and a country, like Australia was forever. That's why people didn't know the difference. For real, people don't know that. Like, but you got places like Mozambique, which is like it's named that because the Portuguese named it that. Cote d'Ivoire. That's because who named it that? The French named it that. Like, there's so many countries where it's obvious who named them what they are named, because, like, South Africa. Africa wasn't a country, or excuse me, Africa was still a country in a continent at the same time. So the only thing you could call it was South Africa. What the hell else would you call it? Hell, Africa itself is like an American, or excuse me, I guess is British technically. Like, so British, UK, Queen's English. Like, I don't think that's what Africans were calling it at the time. So it's like everything about Africa to this degree, to this point, is what could have been. Would we even be speaking about the U.S. in the same way? If I mean, shit, obviously we don't want Africans to go out there and start, doing all the imperialism that the U.S. was doing. But if the U.S. empire and the British empire were never allowed to be what they became, and Africans actually fought back and were unified to some degree and stood up for themselves, will we even be having this conversation about the U.S.? Would you or I even be here? You know what I'm saying? Like, Africa is wild. That the thought experiment there could lead you down a rabbit hole for literally years trying to do a thesis about that shit.
Yeah. I mean, because I was thinking about it, because. And I know this is the nerd in me. It is what it is. But like, and yeah, this is highly propagandized. But still, the movie Black Panther, like, that showed like what a country, African country, would be if it wasn't propagandized at all.
Yeah, I mean, I think that Black Panther probably got it the most right out of any like American like depiction of the Black experience. I feel like that, and I gotta give a shout out to Coogler for that one, because first of all, I think he was under 30 when he started that movie, working with actors that I'm sure, like, literally, I think Chadwick Boseman probably was doing James Brown when Coogler was still a teenager. Like, that's how like magnificent of an actor or actors and actresses that they were working with. Bro, Coogler is young as hell, dog. He looked like a kid, like when he was doing the round table with the rest of the MCU directors. He looked like a child, like that was just so happy to be there. And what was funny was that he realized, like, this is how brilliant of a film it was. His movie was the only movie, including Infinity War and Endgame, that all of the directors were there on the opening night in the same room, because that's how brilliant it was. Like, you managed to show, obviously, the Americanized, what it means to like be taken advantage of by American imperialism, the poverty draft. That's obviously that's how you get Killmonger, and you see how warped his perspective became, and how he became, unfortunately, like the Americans that he hated so much, like the white people, the white imperialists that he hated so much. But that's what happens in real life. I see it all the time. Like, that is literally what happened, and how Africa itself sometimes can be put on a pedestal, or some of the countries and its leaders can be put on a pedestal, and they put themselves on the pedestal, but they don't ever take credit for being directly influential in the Killmonger outcomes, and how they treat us and look down on us and think that we are lesser than because of us for circumstances that weren't in our control, that led to us being African American instead of just African. And then you get I mean, obviously the Black women, how like literally, and this is a consistent theme. I don't know if you've noticed throughout Marvel, like the smartest person in Marvel is Shuri. They already came out and said it. And she's about to be the Black Panther on top of all of that. And the replacement for Iron Man, Ironheart, Black woman. Like, the most powerful people who are not superpowered, like the Dora Milaje, are the most powerful warriors in the world. Like, literally, I don't know if you've seen Falcon and Winter Soldier, but they put hands on all three of them. Put paws on them.
She literally disarmed Bucky Barnes.
Bro, that shit was. She said the Dola Malaj have jurisdiction whatever the Dola Malaj find themselves to be. I was like, it's like if you think otherwise, go ahead and try to fight them. Go ahead. And look what happens. Like they got so many, and really because in Black culture, Black women are considered to be the backbone of Black culture and Black society, and it's the same in Africa too. So it touched so many, but I like the reconciliation aspect of it, right? Where you have Chadwick Boseman, who's playing T'Challa, confront him and all his ancestors. That was the thing. That was the part to me that was like, they got everything. And I know Black people, you know how Black people are, boy, they can be some crab in the bucket motherfuckers. They can do that. They was going out there and waiting to be like, watch them fuck this shit up. Watch the mess. Nope. They hit every single note. They hit every single, and the reconciliation. You were wrong. You should not have abandoned them. Because now all the crime, him having to kill his brother came because of what? Because Wakanda they're like, oh, you can't bring the refugees in. Why? Well, because then their problems become our problems. Well, I don't know if some of y'all seen Avengers Infinity Wars, but when you can stop a fucking spaceship from landing on your goddamn home with a shield, I think that you can handle refugees. You stop the alien invasion. I think you can handle a couple of refugees. But there's that mindset, like that the isolationist mindset that a lot of Africans have, because they're also jaded, obviously, by imperialism. But the overall message of the movie, in my humble opinion, was like, bro, we've all been subject to this imperialism, all of us, and we've all been victims, and it's all manifested in different ways. And so, but the Wakanda, the way it looked, where the city was integrated with the nature, like in the area, that's how cities should look. That's how it should look, right? So I mean, I love the movie. It's just one of my favorite masterpieces of like that I've ever seen. Like I always love as visually as a Black man, it resonates with me on both sides. As a person who's been a veteran, and as a person who like just has had like responsibility thrusted on his shoulders by his family. When you're just trying to figure all this shit out, and then you realize, I saw this tweet the other day. It's beautiful. It said, "Hey man, anybody else having to be parents to their parents lately?" And it's like, that's how it feels though. So I loved it.
Yeah. And just as a point, when he went to the ancestral plane and he told the former kings that all of them were wrong, I want to do that to the Congressional Black Caucus. Especially when it comes to the 94 crime bill. I want to be like, all y'all, because every single time I bring up, the 94 crime bill about Biden, you get liberals in the comments going, with the Congressional Black Caucus, they were the ones who thought it was a good idea. And I'm like, they were wrong.
They were wrong. I don't know what's hard about
And so
over and over again, over and over. The Congressional Black Caucus also voted to support the war in Afghanistan. The Congressional Black Caucus also voted to give weapons to militant groups and terrorist groups in Africa to kill other Africans. I mean, that part where Killmonger said, remember when he was like, that he murdered his own brothers and sisters in Africa just to be there. You can tell that shit hurt him to his soul, but he had become so warped at that point that he's like, just get to the end, and as a Black man in society, they're selling drugs to their own people just to get, because they believe that the end will justify the means, that the peace that they think they will get eventually will be justified by their actions. It will never be true, but like, that's where Black people. Now I will say this though, T'Challa, man, that boy be going from 0 to 100 sometimes, dog. Like whenever he was chasing Claw and he's like talking to them before he get, I'll bring him back alive. I'm gonna bring him back. And when he saw Claw, it was a whole different thing. He was like, "Mercy, King. Every breath you take is mercy from me." I was like, "Bro, what the hell happened to this? Bringing him back shit." Bro, he did the same thing in Infinity Wars. When they was like, let's go negotiate, let's see if we can talk them off the ledge. We can find some middle ground here. And Captain America's like, man, come on, guys. Let's talk this out. We don't have to spill no blood here. And she's like, oh man, we got our army, we good, man. And then he's like, oh no, y'all got this fucked up. That's not what I mean. I ainn bring all these go to the Malaj and all these groups together just to hang out. Nah, you are in
Wakanda now. You will have nothing but
Thanos will have nothing but dust and blood. I'm like, well, there you go. Well, I guess that's all that. Like, damn, bro, you gotta tell people before you just gonna drop some shit like that.
He said,
yeah, man, I'm a miss Chadwick Boseman as T'Challa.
That was hilarious.
Yeah, I was like, me and my wife were like, yo, he just took that shit to 100. Like, if there was any chance at a peaceful resolution here, that shit is dead. Like,
it is dead. Because then Proxima Midnight was like, well, we have blood to spare. And I was like, okay, well, I guess we choosing violence now.
Yo, fun fact, remember that part where they were like, oh, where's your friend? And she was like, he'll pay where you'll pay for his life with yours. Mm-hmm. I don't know if you noticed, a lot of people thought that they were talking about Ebony Maw, but that wasn't what they thought. They had killed what's his name? The dude that ends up going to get Vision. And so Proxima said that so that they would think that he wasn't there while he was going to get Vision. And so whenever Wanda comes down, she was like, why was she standing up there the whole time? And then they flip to the screen where they're going to hunt Vision. Mm-hmm. Where that's who actually Proxima was talking about, but she lied so they wouldn't be looking for him.
Yeah. And that was and actually Corvus Glaive is Proxima Midnight's husband. So
yes, exactly. And it's also should be important. It's also important to mention, guys. It's funny how they literally just ran to black people to save the world again, ran to Africa, save the world. Like I was like, yep, here we go. Hey, black people, real quick, y'all mind saving them? I'm like, bruh, they got black. And then T'Challa, I mean, because this is how most black people are. We're, hey man, if we can help, we'll help. Sure, whatever. Just bring Thanos' entire army here. What's the problem? Cool, we can handle it. Like it's just a default. And Captain America knew they would not deny that man. He knew they wouldn't. Like, I got somewhere we can go. I know somewhere we can do this. I know I can leave Bucky, a fucking, ex-KGB Hydra agent, like who was on the run from the entire world. Yeah, we'll house him. I know that's like an international crime or whatever, but it's cool. We can do it. Whatever, Mm-hmm. Like, that's how black people are, generally speaking. So it's just funny to me that they recognize it in the MCU. And one of the reasons that I've always loved the MCU really more than like DC, for example, is specifically because of everything that we're talking about right now, which is like this internal struggle within either the industry, politics, the corporate world, whatever. Like there is always this internal struggle for meaningful representation. Mm-hmm. And MCU falls back on this idea, like, why would we not get the best person for the role? And why would we not, like, it would make sense that the black woman who is the son of or the daughter of kings and queens, who's working with vibranium, which gives you a hell of a learning curve, would be the smartest person in the MCU. It makes sense, honestly. And I love the fact that she's so flippant about it. She don't give a shit. She was laughing at them. She's like, why didn't you program the cells to work? Whatever the hell. I don't remember what she said, but she was trying to take the soul out of Vision. And she was like laughing at them like, how did y'all not think of this? This is super easy.
Like, I'm sure
it makes sense though.
Yeah.
T'Challa being so jaded made sense. Why he was how he was when his dad got killed, it made sense. Ironically, his dad did get killed though, because of how uninvolved Wakanda had been in Africa up to that point, or really around the world, right? Because that's why the Avengers were needed, because Wakanda had the tools to fix a lot of those issues. But and the standoffish nature because of how much Tony Stark contributed to the military-industrial complex, him and Chadwick Boseman never talked to each other. People don't realize that. There's a reason there was never a vibranium suit. Why would I give you that? Think about it. Like, they hit every note when it comes to the black experience. And why? Because black people are sitting at the table. That's why. That's what representation actually looks like. And guess what? Now that everything they drop, billion. Why? Because you got the best people for the job, because you had active and inclusive representation there.
Mm-hmm. True. Man, I love how we can just mix in policy, geopolitical politics, in with, nerd culture. Yeah, man. It's all related, bro. It's all related. One of the reasons I can't even watch DC anymore. I can't even do it, dog.
Because Batman's a fucking
dark,
cop.
like literally too dark. Like it's too dark. Like I literally, like if I can shut it off my TV, it's like, where is everybody at? I can't see them.
I wish that was just a kid. No, because Black Widow was dark. I love Black Widow. That's one of my favorite movies now, actually. It's like that movie was amazing. You know, it's like low key. If you haven't watched Black Widow, go watch it. It's basically an expose of the entire Epstein trafficking ring. And also Black Widow kind of convinced me that what's his name from who wrote Smells Like Teen Spirit?
Oh,
I cannot remember. Kurt Cobain. There you go. Kurt Cobain. Yeah, I'm pretty sure he got killed. I'm pretty sure he didn't kill himself. Yeah, that's a whole different thing. Because Kevin Feige low-key be snitching on people. He be snitching on the Empire, bro. You gotta watch. You gotta be. You notice, I don't know if you ever seen Winter Soldier.
I did.
But that was basically exposing the deep state. How they thought that they were the good guys. A lot of people in that organization thought they were the good guys, right? Then Hydra has been there this whole time, incubating. And everybody associated Hydra, right? Quote unquote Nazis, with Germany, right? But I don't know if you ever watched all of Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D., where they exposed that Hydra was actually started by the United States. Yeah. That's how that shit they be hitting it. Meanwhile, Batman be trying to do everything except for go to therapy. That's what he do everything to avoid that shit. Like so what's the problem in Gotham, man? The mob and everybody just keeps buying everybody off, man. And they buy the judges off, they buy the attorneys off and the cops off. Well, aren't you the richest man like in the world? Just buy them off with better paying jobs and infrastructure. Like you're literally spending billions on. You seen the Dark Knight Rises, right? With Bane. Yeah. Remember how they put out all those tanks, all those weapons, all those ships. How many? Couple billion, few billion, maybe for all that shit. That was out of his garage. You didn't think? Man, let me reinvest that in the community.
You know what the sad part is? That speech in front of Blackgate Prison, Bane was actually throwing bars. He was actually signed like a revolutionary. And I'm like, wait, after I came to the left, I was like, hold up. And I listened to the Bane speech again. I'm just like,
yeah, it sucks that he was full of shit to some degree. Like that bothered, but it also like, he was full of shit too, right? Because he was never intended on actually allowing the people to run that city. Yeah, he was never intended. He's always going to blow it up. That let you know you got to watch out for some people who got a loud microphone, but just be saying some really nice shit. The leftist movement can relate to that a little bit. But you look at this idea of Superman, the white savior, right? It's the same concept. It's Wonder Woman, royalty, like everybody with a superpower is some type of, even the Green Arrow, like all these people are wealthy or from royalty. Or like why the whole reason Superman exists is because of elitist class privilege. Because his parents were some of the best scientists on Krypton, couldn't stop the goddamn planet from blowing up, but some of the best scientists on Krypton where they can build him a spaceship, have the infrastructure to keep the spaceship just in case, and program it to send their child to a different planet where he's now a superhero. Literally everything about that is you had an inherent advantage. Whereas a lot of the Marvel characters, MCU characters were born out of disadvantage, right? Or if they did have an advantage, like Tony Stark got humbled in the first movie. They humbled that motherfucker. First movie. Yep, you're kidding now because you're dumb. Fix this shit. And then he spends his billions of dollars doing what? Helping people now. So it's like that with DC. I always say like, yo, I feel like DC is just a bunch of white dudes that sit around the table and like they just like talk about how great it would be if they made superheroes that were just like white people that got away with everything they wanted. Like it doesn't make their story. What is Apocalypse like? Not Apocalypse, excuse me. What is Darkseid's goal? Why does he want to destroy the planet exactly? Jay, do you know?
I don't know. I don't know.
I mean, we do know he wants to do it though, right?
I can tell you Thanos, but
Thanos, you said?
Yeah, like for instance, even though I know the comic book Thanos, but basically, I mean, in the comic book Thanos was trying to do it to get some tail. Let's be real.
Yeah, he was.
You kind of understand that, though, you know. But
yeah.
but
MC was good at making sure they're like, yeah, that doesn't make any sense. Let's fix this.
But in the movies in the MCU, you had a lot of people going, "Damn, Thanos got a point. It's warped, but he does have a point."
It's but here's see this is the other thing about the MCU. There's a lot. Like I've watched so much MCU so many times because I just am way too into politics. And like I've learned to now look at because of it's kind of the respect I have for Kevin Feige. Really, I'm like, there's not a movie that he's put out that doesn't have hell. Iron Man was exposing the military-industrial complex. Civil War. They take the man who was supposed to be this, like when Captain America was originally created, even in the comics, it was a propaganda piece, and they say he then stands up to the Empire. He challenged the Empire, and now the man who's supposed to be representative of America is shunned and becomes public enemy number one of the U.S. government for standing up to them. Which because what is the most patriotic thing you can do, really, which is stand up to your government. And that's what he did. Like the messages have been there consistently if you're looking for them. With Thanos, so the whole premise of the resources, right, which was genius, by the way. But do you know what he says in Endgame that no one catches? And I thought this before Endgame even came out, and I kind of ruined it. I don't even tell people until they're ready to hear it, but it's been so long. I'm like, all right, guys, so why the fuck didn't he just snap his fingers and double the resources? And you want to know how he could do it? Because he literally says, oh man, y'all came back and taught me that as long as there are people to remember what there was, they'll never be there except what can be. So I'm going to strip the universe down to its last atom and then rebuild it. So in other words, you could have just doubled the fucking resources.
Yeah.
Literally.
He could have.
But that's how people like fucking Klaus Schwab at the World Economic Forum and a lot of these like Bill Gates, they always talk about the scarcity of no, there's no scarcity. First of all, there's no scarcity of resources. When you combine the amount of resources with technology and innovation, there is absolutely. But without the idea of scarcity, without the lie of scarcity, well, capitalism falls flat, don't it?
Yes. Yeah. Because I mean, you just linked about how the idea that Thanos thinks that, well, there's not enough to go around, and it's like you literally have the entire resource of the universe in your hand in order to double or even triple or quadruple it.
And then what does he do instead? Takes away. Exactly. And that's exactly what the powerful do in real life.
Yeah. So what is
right now we have all the resources, all that. Yeah, there is no difference. No, they're literally that is them. Thanos is them for sure. Like, like that was, but that was Kevin Feige's point. There was some things about Thanos that they did on purpose. Same thing. So like I don't know if you remember, but in Guardians, I want to say the end of Age of Ultron, Thanos' eyes are like bright purple CGI. They went out of their way to make him, to give them Josh Brolin's real eyes, because your eyes, you communicate with your eyes. So everything Thanos did was genuine. You never question him. And they actually go out of their way to make a big deal about him not lying. Because when you're not scared of anybody, why the fuck do you need to lie, right? So, and so when he says something like that, you don't think about, right? When Gamora tells Peter to kill her, right? And he does it, and Thanos like turns his gun into bubbles. Like he's like, oh, I like him. That was genuine. He genuinely liked him for Gamora, for his daughter, which is kind of weird, but he says, you've earned my respect, Stark. When I'm done, half the universe will be gone, but I hope that half still remembers you. Yeah. Which also demonstrates that it's not personal for him. He's detached from it. But that they hit so many notes, bro. Like even with everybody that knows me or watches my show, Guardians of the Galaxy 2 is my favorite movie in the world. Like it is not even close. Because if you ever watched it with me on shrooms, you would figure it out really quickly. But Ego's not really Quill's dad in the comic books, right? You know that. Ego was made Quill's dad because James Gunn was trying to communicate a point literally about ego, right? So Quill meets Ego, who ends up being his, for those of you who don't know, Chris Pratt's character, Star-Lord. His dad is a Celestial named Ego, who keeps Mantis, an empath, around as a pet because he cannot sleep without the empath around to put him to sleep. In the whole movie, he's actually gaslighting them. Like every time Quill's like, well, why did you leave my mom? I loved your mom. Why are you? He's like, oh, what the fuck? Okay. All right. Then he changed the subject. And then and when he comes into the movie, I don't know if you've seen Guardians 2, but I don't know if you noticed when Ego comes into the movie, the whole team splits up. The found family that they created, they all split. Right? Yeah. They go on their separate ways. And you have, even with Yondu and the rest, the Ravagers, him and Sakaara argue. So everybody split up. But when they all come together to destroy Ego, the family reunites. Yeah. That's the shit that they on. Like that, DC could never. They could never. They could never. They can't do it. But you got to do something. You got to melt your ego. Kevin Feige used to be a Democrat. Did you know that? He also used to be a Republican. And he's like, realized he had the same realization that you and I and a lot of people in the chat have had. They're all trash. Wow. And when you realize that the elite are full of shit, then your eyes are open. And the things that you do, in every aspect of your life, whether it be making movies, creating content, the missions that you choose to pursue, like everything is just different because you're seeing it with a clear view versus the view that is obscured by partisan propaganda.